The husband accused her of promiscuity, complained about her uncleanliness, and spread rumors that she had lost her mind. He even barred her from attending her own coronation. Such was his disdain for his wife. Was Caroline of Brunswick truly as repulsive as he claimed? Or was her husband, George IV, simply looking for an excuse to divorce her? Historians know the answers to these questions. Caroline Amalia Elizabeth, daughter of the Brunswick dynasty, was born on May 17, 1768. Her mother was Princess Augusta of England, which ultimately shaped Caroline's destiny. By 1794, she was betrothed to her cousin, the heir to the British throne, George. When she arrived at the English court, she was a fair-haired, lively, cheerful girl with a mischievous streak who adored music. In fact, the only thing Caroline truly excelled at was music. She played the harpsichord beautifully and even composed her own pieces, but in every other respect, the princess was utterly uneducated. It's worth noting that until her death, she never wrote letters by hand, preferring to dictate them. Spelling was simply beyond her. However, the bride's lack of education did not hinder the political marriage. Caroline had suitors before the Prince of Wales, but her parents dreamed of something more grand. The Prince of Orange or the Duke of Hesse-Darmstadt could not compare to a future King of England. Thus, George had no rivals. Yet the groom himself was not thrilled about marrying his German relative. For several years prior, he had been romantically involved with Maria Fitzherbert and would have gladly married this commoner, but the law forbade such a union. It was a case of absolute disdain at first sight. Upon seeing Caroline, the Prince of Wales muttered, "I feel unwell. Give me brandy," and promptly left. The Brunswick bride was more direct in her assessment. She found George excessively fat and coarse. A candlelit dinner arranged for the couple to converse in a relaxed setting turned into a disaster. Caroline, whether from anxiety or simply her nature, sweated profusely and was frustrated by it. George, disdainfully watching the strands of her light hair stick to her forehead, treated her with little regard. Nevertheless, they married on April 8, 1795. They had not yet shared their wedding bed when Maria Fitzherbert received a message from George. He loved her and would love her until his last breath. Whether the young couple had their first wedding night remains unclear, as the Prince of Wales was heavily intoxicated. Caroline later recounted that on the night after their wedding, George collapsed by the fireplace and slept on the rug until morning. However, just a few days later, the prince and princess fulfilled their marital duty, and in due time, they welcomed a daughter, Charlotte Augusta, named after both her mother and grandmother. To George, this was a complete failure. The heir's wife was supposed to bear a son. The king, the baby's grandfather, delighted in her birth, which only irritated George, while his increasingly plump wife filled him with nausea. The Prince and Princess of Wales no longer lived under the same roof. As for the little princess destined to inherit the English throne, to George, she was merely a pawn. Leaving her with Caroline would give her too much influence, so the prince soon took their daughter away from her mother. Their meetings were strictly regulated and limited in time. No one at court could understand the prince's evident hatred for his wife. Caroline garnered sympathy from everyone, from the nobles to the lowliest maid, so she saw her daughter much more frequently than her husband allowed. Remarkably, the public began to view Caroline of Brunswick as a martyr, and when her carriage appeared on the streets, people applauded. Newspapers eagerly took her side. It goes without saying that the rift between the couple widened into an unbridgeable chasm. The true break occurred in 1797 when Caroline finally moved into her own home. Gaining her freedom, the Princess of Wales surrounded herself with pleasant company, invited guests, and hosted dinner parties. George used all of this as ammunition to accuse her of infidelity, marking his first attempt to divorce her. A second opportunity arose for the Prince of Wales shortly thereafter. Caroline took in a boy named William Austen, to whom she was very affectionate. Naturally, George accused her of having an illegitimate son. An investigation was conducted, which revealed that the boy was the child of one of the maids, and the princess was simply caring for him. The royal family was in a serious crisis. The Welsh couple had not produced a son. A wall of misunderstanding and even hatred had grown between them, and King George III had gone mad. Beginning in February of 1811, Caroline's husband became the de facto ruler of England under his incapacitated father. Almost immediately, he attempted to hurt her again. He forbade her from seeing their daughter. No matter how hard Caroline tried to seek support from her relatives, members of Parliament, and the press, this time, she was unsuccessful. Charlotte Augusta had grown up and needed to be married off. George chose William from the House of Orange, of course, without consulting either his wife or daughter. Both were strongly opposed. In an unexpected act of defiance, Charlotte Augusta even ran away from home to avoid the marriage. Unfortunately, she was returned, and the princess had to go through with the wedding, though not to William, but to another prince from the Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld dynasty. Exhausted from her struggles with her husband, Caroline left England. Charlotte Augusta seemed to sense impending doom and was deeply troubled that she hadn't been able to say a proper goodbye to her mother. Of course, Caroline was not invited to her wedding. Soon after, the princess found herself pregnant, but on the 5th of November in 1817, she gave birth to a stillborn son and then tragically passed away. The future of the English monarchy was now in jeopardy. The legitimate heir had died, and George had no other children. The Prince of Wales decided to remarry, but first, he needed to get a divorce. How? It was simple. George demanded irrefutable evidence that during her travels in Europe, Caroline of Brunswick had led a dissolute lifestyle. This proved to be more difficult than expected. Either the princess was truly an angel, or she was skilled at concealing her affairs. George was furious. He had hoped for a swift resolution to his dilemma. Time passed, and then the mad King George III died. Now Caroline's husband had become the King of England. Without a doubt, Caroline received the royal title. Moreover, on the 6th of June in 1820, she landed in Dover. It was a triumphant return. Wherever Caroline appeared, people shouted, "Long live the Queen!" The people of London rejoiced, while the king seethed with rage. However, he had prepared well for the return of his despised wife. By the 27th of June, a trial began, during which Caroline was proposed to be stripped of all her titles on the grounds of infidelity. What followed was a spectacle that could hardly be called a trial. Caroline's name was dragged through the mud, with new details of her alleged disgraceful life emerging constantly. Yet the Princess of Wales still had the strength to joke. Among her friends, she often quipped that she had indeed sinned. She had shared a bed with Mrs. Maria Fitzherbert's husband, meaning the king himself. To support Caroline, her supporters did the unimaginable. They gathered 1,000,000 signatures. 800 petitions were submitted. But what did that matter against the royal court? Caroline lost. When George IV was crowned at Westminster Abbey, he forbade his wife from attending the ceremony. She tried to push through the cordon, but was stopped. The humiliation was immense. Perhaps this was the final straw. The next day, she fell gravely ill, to the point where no medication could help her. Just a few days later, the Queen of England passed away. As for the new King George, he never had any children and reigned for only 9 years. No one loved him in England, and during his reign, a record number of immigrants left Britain. Such a phenomenon had never been seen before. Stay tuned for the fate of Caroline's main rival in the upcoming videos. Subscribe to the channel for more fascinating content about the history of Europe and the world.